failures and cancellations, budgets and inspirations. You are now tuned in to the Disney Holic Show.
Hello and welcome to the Disney Holic Show. That's Mike TV.
And that's Jen Diz.
From mythical kingdoms to futuristic cities, Disney's unbuilt parks tell stories of ambition and what could have been. Join us as we uncover how the struggles of Euro Disney cost us some Imagineering dreams.
Dreams broken.
And it's to our future discussion. All right, so today we have the wrap up of our Patreon takeover. I am so excited to talk about this. I was sent on a rabbit hole extravaganza of research with this one because I felt like I knew a little bit about this, but like not enough, And so it was just so much fun researching. But this last topic was sent in from Jess Quo. And let's hear from her herself, right? Let's hear what she has to say about this.
Yes, we have a nice audio message here.
Hi, Mike and Jen. Something that I've been hearing from another podcast that I listen to for your attraction is that because Disneyland Paris or Euro Disney, I guess what it was known back then, was such a flop, that Disney had to cancel or severely cut back on a lot of the projects that they had going on at that time. One of the biggest ones being the first iteration of DCA. So I was wondering if you could look into what were other projects that had to be abandoned or that were also severely cut back because of the financial stress caused by Disneyland Paris. All right, thanks.
Ooh, what a great question.
It's a good one.
Prompt.
It's a real good one. Thanks, Jess. So first of all, something about this. Oh, quick correction. She had mentioned that she mentioned the wrong podcast. So just in case you guys wanted to find that, it's actually called For Your Amusement instead of For Your Attraction.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to look that one up, take a listen. But I just, for some reason, when I was thinking about like DCA and like also it just in my brain went immediately to our Adventures of D23 Expos where they promise a bunch of stuff and it doesn't come through. Could you imagine? Like just put yourself in a seat in Hall D or the Honda Center for the announcement of DCA. Like, can you imagine? I just got chills right now. Like finding out that we get a second whole park at our home resort. Like,
so cool.
I wish there was a D23 back then. I also wish that I was more into it back then. Like I went to Disney all the time already at that point, but I wasn't like,
and I bet
it wasn't a thing
concepts
online yet,
So good to see what we didn't get. Usually they kind of go over a little bit, but that would have been neat to see. Wow.
Very cool. So cool. So anyway, I just wanted to like sit you in that with me because it like tripped me out thinking about it. I was like, I would have lost my mind. Like lost my mind. Anyway, especially because it's like Disneyland's the original park and they hadn't done anything extra to like, no additional parks yet. And
we know the footprint so well. Like we park in that parking lot and we would walk to the gate. And it's still weird when I think about it.
Yeah, totally. So cool though. Okay, so I wanted to go over a quick history of Euro Disney's demise. Many of you will know it now as Disneyland Paris. Originally it was called Euro Disney. And I just thought I'd cover it real quick in case you don't know the background of that. And then we could get into some of the things that changed because of this. So after the success of Tokyo Disney, so it's just Tokyo Disneyland at the time. Disney Sea was not there yet. It was a huge success though. And so Michael Eisner and the whole team was like, all right, where are we going next? Right? Like, where should we open another international park? We've already had the West Coast and the East Coast taken care of in America. We've now moved to Japan. Where else can we take this brand and like go? And they had looked they looked into like over 300 different locations and finally landed a deal with the country of France. Like they actually
Wow.
like really made a solid deal with France and chose there. So part of the reasons there was like just like a really good situation of land and location and being that close. Sorry, I'm about to cough.
I think I remember
Excuse
the
me.
runner-up being Spain too, right? Like there was
Yep.
another one very close. Yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
But yeah, so Paris was very close in proximity and they had public transportation they could build out to it. So it just made a lot of sense. And then they landed a good deal with the government as well, and it worked out. Now, what they didn't take into account for is something that you and I have plenty of experience in, and this is DEI. And the reason that I bring this up is because you and I have HR brains, and we talk about this on the podcast a lot. If anybody out there has been in HR, they would understand too. What they didn't really think about is like, what is the public gonna feel? What are the customs in France? What does this match what Disney has to offer? And unfortunately, it did not. Um, One of the reasons it went so well in Japan was because previous to Disney even thinking about, actually before Disney even opened at all, right? Disneyland, um, there was parts of Japan that were occupied during or like right after World War II by Americans. So there was already like a ton of American culture that people were getting exposure to out there. And during the recession and whatnot, the were like I don't really understand it. I don't know if they weren't allowed to because the article I read said they were allowed to. So I don't know if they were banning foreign media at the time or what was going on, but the first thing that came in to Japan that they were able to watch for cartoon media was Disney shorts. So like
Oh,
Disney has a huge history in Japan, like specifically over there. So
it is kind of
um
interesting though, because in a way, Americans could be looked at as the bad ones at the time. So it's
totally.
like if I'm thinking of, of shows like Andor, is that what it's called? So like the stormtroopers occupy your Jabba village or whatever, and then you start to get used to their
Oh, you're
uh,
saying it that way. It's
pop
almost like
culture.
Stockholm syndrome or something, right?
Yeah,
Like,
you're like starting to love all the stuff they love too. All right, okay.
yeah.
It's like that in the Philippines too. That's what made me think of it. So I've experienced
Mm.
that and I've seen that. It's really, really interesting. Not
Super
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Though, with all that said, like the exposure alone was like why it ended up being a success to bring a Disney park to Japan. Um, but it did not have the same situation going on in Paris. They were very, or in France, they were very proud of their beautiful landscapes and their country and more like rustic and beautiful themes versus like cute and cartoony, right? They weren't just, that's not what the style was over in France at the time, or even still, if you know, some could say. So the locals were not excited about it, like at all. And they got tons of people pushing back. Um, and, you know, it kind of got signed over with the government as a deal, like a money transaction over thinking about something a little deeper about like
Like what people actually
customary stuff.
want.
And
Yeah.
yeah. And then they also kind of like lit the fire even further after that by making some rules. One is that they were demanding English only in the attractions at the
Disney
beginning.
was?
Disney was.
Oh.
They also had a bunch of cast member guidelines as far as like what's it called? Like what you wear.
Oh, okay.
What's the
Dress
word I'm
code.
looking
Dress
for?
code.
Dress code. Thank you. Yes. Dress code, how you have your hair cut, all that kind of facial hair. Very
Wow.
different in France than it is in America, right? That style and look. And they just were not having it. And it was actually illegal under French law to tell people that they have to look a certain way or however you want to say that. So I was like, oh, that
Wow.
was actually really cool that they had that. Um,
We were
but that
totally
was,
trying to like Americanize that
yes,
area. They're like,
absolutely.
no way.
And then previous to Disney moving over, within like years, I think it was like maybe within a decade total, There were three other theme parks that opened up in France, and they all failed, like bankrupt. Um,
Oh,
yeah, so there's three theme parks, not as necessarily as big as Disney, um, but they failed, so it just was
that's
not going well.
interesting. So it wasn't just Disney necessarily.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
people were definitely trying to like turn amusement style over to France, like pretty hardcore, and people were like, "What the heck? Get out of
We don't
here!"
want to.
What else here? Disney, the Disney company only owned 49% of it, and the French government would not allow more. So the French government was officially like the official like
Yeah,
what's the word
majority
there too?
owner
I
of
can't
it.
think of any
Yeah,
words. They're the something owner,
that's cool.
the bigger owner, whatever the word is. And because of the cultural differences and reasons people didn't want the park there, it caused a lot of protesting. Like even when they had the big media, um, like presentation and press conference with Mickey Mouse and up there, people were throwing like food and things at them on stage. Like Michael Eisner was getting like handfuls of
What?
mushed tomatoes
Cheese,
thrown at him
hopefully.
and stuff. Yeah, right?
Stinky
That'd be cute.
cheese. Would think.
Um, and other things happen that we've heard before. There's been sound issues, like the villages that are local to the park were complaining about the sound. Another cultural difference, Disney banned alcohol in the parks,
Oof.
which that
Europeans,
used to always be a
man.
thing for the longest, and definitely can't really do that in France.
Yeah.
And then lastly, the name Euro Disney, and I felt this was super interesting. I never thought about it, but euros are a currency, and so people in France, they associate euro instead of this like fancy, cool version of things being euro that we think of when we hear that. They think
Yeah.
of it as like commerce or money or transactions. So you're calling it Euro Disney. It
Dollar
now is
Disney.
like, yeah, Dollar Disney, like Dollar Land. If you were to name Disneyland Euroland, it would be Dollar Land. It's just like not a good look. So many fails that could have been avoided with a little more research probably and time put into addressing and working on the marketing and cultural aspects and
Dang.
whatnot.
I've always wondered why they changed it. That makes sense because I'm looking, they opened in 92 and the Euros came out in 99 and then it became sometime Disneyland Paris and I was like confused at the time as that kind of person who wasn't following the day-to-day. Um Interesting, very interesting.
Yep. So it's all like just kind of doomed from the beginning. Needless to say, it did not go well opening day. I can't remember the statistics, but it was very low attendance on opening day versus any of the other Disney parks they've opened in the past. Um, and they were having trouble getting, the parks filled. So,
If
oh my
we
gosh,
were who we are today at that time, we would have totally been there
we would have,
for the opening. That would be so cool.
which we have to do now. We have to go to the next international park that opens. We have to be there. I'm going to put it
Oh,
down.
oh, wow.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Who knows when that's going to happen? We might be 87 years old, so I don't know. But I actually found the statistics. Sorry. So opening day, they were saying that they could have up to 500,000 people at the resort. Only 25,000 showed up. So like
Ooh. Huh.
big difference, right? Um, and there was issues for that too. Like the French media and Disney told people like don't all come at once. It's going to be crazy.
Oh,
So they put the messaging out there in the marketing
whoops.
to like come in troves instead of all at the same time. And so they
That's not
didn't.
good. Kind of backfired
Yeah.
on them. Not good.
Excuse me. What else here? They also had a global recession in the early 90s, so that caused issues of people affording to go and wanting to go to somewhere like a theme park. Um, and then one of the craziest things, another HR brain moment. Opening year, there was 3,000 people in turnover out of 12,000 employees. So it's like a
Employees.
quarter of their employees
Wow.
quit or left or whatever. And they all claimed poor working conditions. So
It's the
something was again not
51.
up to par.
It's the 51% ownership that were the bad ones.
We'll say that. We'll say
Okay.
that. Let's see here. So another kind of crazy thing about this was Eisner actually 2 years after opening said in a press conference that they may need to close Euro Disney down. Did you know that?
Wow,
I
what a
don't think I've ever really
call.
heard Disney like
No, I didn't
admit
know it got
defeat
that
like that.
far. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that was pretty wild. And what the Imagineers like ended up doing is they had a backup plan. Like they're like, what can we do to cut the budget a little bit? And then this can also be like a kind of survival tool. So when they first opened Disneyland Paris, they wanted to include Space Mountain because Space Mountain's huge attraction at both of the Disney parks that were already open, or all of the Disney parks that already opened. And they ended up cutting it because they just didn't have the budget for it right away. But they're like, why don't we just hold on to this a little bit, make some money back, and then open it? And that gives another option for people to come. Like the new ride, the new big ride is now made at Disneyland Paris. And that proved to be like the most successful game changer they could have ever done because Space Mountain saved Disneyland Paris, like
Oh
straight up.
wow. Or it was still Euro Disney by then, or was that
Still
later?
your Disney,
So
yeah. Yep.
wow, you're right, because they have I've never been there, you've been there, but theirs is different. It like shoots you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow.
And it's called Discoveryland, so it's all steampunk style. It's that
Okay.
bronze, like copper looking um
So it was worth the
steampunk.
wait in terms of what they got in return.
Yeah, like it
Oh, okay.
actually really worked. Like not only were they able to save budget for opening, but they were also had like a resurge of people coming through for the new attraction.
Wow.
Um, and it ended up like creating all these like conversations about how are we now going to move this money around because now we have money coming in, but we still don't have enough to really like keep the park at a position that we need it to be at. What can we do? Um, they did a lot of sweet talking, and the banks
Sweet
ended up
talking.
forgiving interest payments.
Oh.
And they also deferred interest for 3 years. Then they also got Disney on board, the creditor banks, and a wealthy Saudi prince to
What?
invest. Yep, like one single guy, and then these
Interesting.
other two giant, corporations put money in to save the park also. So that's how it all
Wow.
went. It
Well, if
was
there's any Saudi princes that are listening to our podcast, we have a Patreon page you could subscribe to.
you can request other topics that you like for Patreon takeover.
There you go.
Um, but yeah, so this put, a lot of pressure on Imagineers at that point because now they have to really shine. Um, and Space Mountain ended up being themed for Jules Verne. Like that's like that whole
Oh
Discoveryland
yeah.
was kind of the
Yeah.
Jules Verne style. And I didn't know this either. The actual attraction, I think it might, no, it changed after a while. It turned into hyperspace, and I think it's still stuck like that maybe now. But it was called Space Mountain from the Earth to the Moon. Like
Oh
it had a full title. I never knew
wow.
that.
Okay.
I never knew it. So
Interesting.
yeah.
And then it was like Launch 2.0 or something weird, and then
Yeah, they
Hyperspace
had Mission 2 later. Yep.
Mission 2. Wow.
So 1 year after Space Mountain opened, they had a profit, or their very first profit they were able to announce since Euro Disney opened at $35 million.
Hmm.
And then 3 years after that turnaround, they opened a second gate. And that proved to be probably too soon because they also had to cut back there. And that's kind of where
Oh.
this all starts like rolling in, right? Like just becomes a big mess. That's when they did the Hail Mary with the Space Mountain Mission 2 to get
Oh,
people
okay.
happy again. And it was just messy. And then we had to start losing things in other places like cutbacks at DCA, for instance, like Jessica already
Wow.
mentioned. But
There we go.
so that's a little background on Euro
Yeah.
Disney.
That's really
And
important because, I love watching all these YouTube videos about canceled projects or history of XYZ. And this Euro Disney project screwed so many things up that it's mentioned all the time, but casually mentioned, and not everyone knows exactly the details that you share. Like they'll say, "Oh, that Euro Disney fiasco," and then they'll move on. But the average person might not know like how crazy that was and what a disaster.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Wow.
was pretty wild. Like I don't think I think I may have known about the protesters, but I forgot to mention one thing about the protesters. There was threats of like bombing local railway
Wow.
tracks so people couldn't get to the parks.
Jeez Louise.
So like it's just like wild. Like it was going crazy over there. So they did not have an easy feat for sure. So now getting back to the actual question that Jessica asked, what projects were either cut back or canceled for this demise? And this was actually like a little interesting to
Why?
research. There was a ton of information out there about why Euro Disney failed and a ton of information about projects that didn't happen in general, but it was really hard to see like where can I just find content of like which ones of these didn't happen because of Euro Disney and why,
Yeah.
right? So it took a lot of digging, and most of the things I found were actually cancellations. The one big cutback was DCA. Um, so I'm going to talk about things that were fully canceled now, which is like, oh my God, so sad. But we're going to start off with a couple things that were actually um, predecessors to DCA, right? DCA kind of came out of
Right.
these two projects failing.
That's right.
And
It
this was,
wasn't even going to be the parking lot. It was going to be someplace else.
yep, yep. So speaking of, the first one on the list is Port Disney slash Disney Sea.
Wow.
And this was a waterfront resort and theme park in Long Beach. So it's going to
Yeah.
be over on the ocean.
Next to the
Um,
Queen Mary,
yep, yep.
which
And the Queen
Disney
Mary was going to
bought.
be, yeah,
Yeah.
some other sort of thing right
Yeah.
down the street, right?
Crazy.
And this was going to be featuring ocean themed attractions and an aquarium.
Wow.
So a couple of these attractions that they had slotted for this park is an Oceana Lagoon. And this was a massive central like water feature with a stunning nighttime fountain show, right? Like
Wow.
think Epcot probably, right?
Yeah.
And then the Seven Seas Port. This was a distinct themed area that represented different maritime cultures or myths. And they had a few different attractions in that area. So this is kind of be the heavier attraction area. One was called Journey to Atlantis. This was a indoor roller coaster exploring the lost city of Atlantis. Mysteries of the Deep. It was a submarine voyage. Sound familiar? With interactive sea creature
Ooh.
encounters. And lastly, Pirates Haven, a live stunt show featuring
Buckle.
swashbuckling adventures.
Yo ho. Pirates
Exactly.
Haven for me.
And then
Wow. Those
the
are
last
cool.
area, one more in this port Disney was the Maritime Conservation Pavilion. So this is going to be back to our edutainment thing that we all love so much over at Epcot,
Yes.
especially. So this is like an edutainment area with real aquariums and hand-on exhibits. And this would be heavily promoting ocean preservation. So it's also like, awareness and
Yeah. And San
education and
Diego's
all that
perfect
stuff.
for that. The famous zoo is over there. I'm picturing like an Epcot style thing that you said. It would fit in really well. That's kind of sad. And that just made me sad thinking about my dolphin friends who were moved out of Epcot
Aw,
hours away. Oh, but yeah, that would have been
aw.
cute to have all that. And those
It would have been
hands-on
cute.
exhibits, I like to do those things. Field trips. This would have been a cool place.
Yeah, yeah. Now this was, of course, cut because of the things that we know about Euro Disney. But it eventually inspired portions of Disney Sea at Tokyo Disneyland
That makes sense. When
Resort.
you're talking about the different ports, that sounds exactly like that.
Yep. So we didn't,
Wow.
it wasn't all a complete loss, right? We got something out of it at least. So,
Wow.
I mean, it
Imagine
ended
if
up
we had,
inspiring the coolest theme park on the planet,
right?
evidently. So,
Imagine if we had that one, Tokyo's version, in Long Beach that we
oh my
could go to.
God, I would have moved to Long Beach instead of Anaheim, just saying. Whoops. It's okay. They're only like 30 minutes apart. How cool would that be? Oh my
Yep.
God, the dream.
Did you see any of that information about like how they were going to truck people back and forth or
No, no,
yeah. That's
no.
far. I mean, in terms of like a tram or monorail or something. Like if it's
Yeah.
far
Oh my
enough.
God, that would be so cool if they made like, they probably would have made like a train or something, I bet.
Maybe. That'd be cool.
Yeah, monorail would be cooler, but who knows? All right, next up on the list is Westcott. And if you haven't already heard about Westcott, this was going to be a West Coast version of Epcot Center. And this is going to be similar, like another edutainment park focusing on the future as well as global culture and innovation. And they had like the four, I think it was called like the four corners of the world. So it was like the Americas. Um, I forget how they named it out, but it was gonna like basically encompass all of the countries we have into big bulk sections. Like Americas is all of North America and South America. So just imagine what that would look like. It's like a lot in one place. So quite interesting.
Wow.
But one of the most like the weenie, right? We got weenies here. If you guys don't know what a weenie is, that is something in Disney terminology where an identifier, something that's big and sticks out that you can see from far away. Um,
That's what she
and
said.
I and I just like saying it because it's a weenie. But and you're like allowed to say that in
Yeah.
Disney. It's kind of cool. But they were gonna have a wow, spaceship Earth dome replica. So the big golf ball, as we know and love it, of Epcot is going to be over on the West Coast too, and it was going to be gold, definitely
Wow.
smaller, but yeah. So this is
West
going to
Coast
be
weenie.
is going to be a revamped version of the journey through humanity's innovations and an emphasis on sustainability and West Coast. God, I can't
I
speak
kind
today.
of
This is really
think
bad for having a podcast.
I kind of think it looks cooler from some of the concept art that's out there than Spaceship Earth. Oops. Dan, if you're
Well,
watching on YouTube, it's back here behind us.
yep, yep. This is what Westcott was supposed to look like.
It looks so
Um,
futuristic.
I know it does look really cool. It has like the double dome even. It's like
Yeah.
pretty interesting. Lights shooting out of it like that. Crazy. So the other sections we're going to be World Showcase Lagoon. So we also have that in Disney World. Um, this is going to have a couple attractions. This is going to be the Pacific Rim Adventure, which is a boat ride through the cultural and natural wonders of the Asia Pacific nations. And then California Connections, which I think is hilarious because we have a Connections Cafe now in in Epcot. And it's going back to the whole California idea, right? And this is an interactive exhibit linking California's diverse cultures to global
Oh,
influences.
interesting. Like California was going to have its own thing in the
Yeah,
showcase. That's fascinating.
super interesting.
And then somebody must have said, well, why don't we just do a whole park about
That's
that?
literally what Michael Eisner thought. So not to like completely defer from it, but Michael Eisner for the idea of DCA, he was like, we're competing against so many things in California. We have so many things that people come here to see. What if we just build a park and nobody has to ever leave the park? And I'm like, as if you could
It's so
go
dumb.
to DCA and feel like you visited Hollywood. Like, spare me,
Yeah.
Eisner.
It was really not a good idea. And then um Universal, the reason why Universal Studios works being in Hollywood, a Hollywood themed theme park, was because, and it still is, a live active studio. Like that was the whole
Right.
draw. Like you're already in Hollywood to do those kind of tours. But yeah, Disney's too far to just go like, oh, I'd rather do
Like
all
we
of
could
those
just you
there.
could just do it here. And it's like
Yeah.
completely negating the history of everything.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, and then you were talking about Euro Disney slash Disneyland Paris earlier. And I always thought it was weird that they have their own Paris land that they built for Ratatouille.
they
I was
did
like,
it again,
that's
huh?
kind of weird. Right? Yeah. Fake Paris when the real one's down the way.
I wonder if they did that because that's in the studios one, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder if they did that to appease like the French culture. Like, here, this is your beautiful land,
Oh, they're like
Because
this
that kind of flips that now, right? Like,
reflections of
right?
how much we love you. The Disney Studios park is being renamed Adventure
Mm-hmm.
World. I think
I
Adventure
can't
World.
remember, or something like that.
It's real corny. Yeah.
Is another out of the bag.
Wow. That's
And it
interesting
doesn't
though,
feel
the
like adventure over there, in my opinion. It feels,
on that side. Yeah.
yeah, like they need to do a lot of work, but okay. Anyways, back on track. So
Westcott.
Westcott, yes. So where was I here? At the end of the World Showcase. So then they had one last area. It was called Future World West. And this was going to focus on cutting edge technologies and ecological harmony. And they had two areas in this area. This is like more of those pavilions like we do see in Epcot. One was Sustainable Futures Pavilion, an immersive experience showcasing renewable energy. And World of Tomorrow, a dark ride experience exploring futuristic possibilities of urban life.
Oh,
So,
okay.
all
Feels
right.
Epcot, Westcott.
Feels very Westcott, yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason for cancellation there was it was estimated at $3 billion, and they're like, yeah, we cannot do that right now.
Wow. I think they ended up spending, if I recall, 2.5 billion just to fix DCA because they
I know.
did it so cheap.
Isn't it so
So it
crazy?
happens.
Yikes.
Wow.
All right. So the next project that was canceled was called Disney's America. And this was a theme park that was going to be out in Virginia. And like they're like, where next? We've gone to Tokyo. We've gone to France. Let's go to Virginia. No offense. Virginia's for lovers, okay?
Just for
But
lovers, first of all, I used to live in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Thank you. And I loved going to field trips on these field trips to these like historical sites. So I see where Disney was trying to go with this.
all right. And it does fit, you're right. So
Yeah.
this was a park focusing on American history from colonial times to modern day innovations, which now I just can we just not redo these anymore? Also, we I feel like there's so many of these and they're always like a little awkward and problematic. So anyway,
Yeah, I don't think this concept would even have gone as far as it did today.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like no
right.
one would want to touch it.
Like I was cringing with it already. I was like, oh man, it's just skip over it. And
Even
plus,
when
it's
we
already
do
done so many times. Like we don't need another one.
yeah, like there's Civil War reenactment places. Even when we go to just places like Ardenwood in Fremont and the docents are pretending to churn the butter, it makes me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah,
It's really strange.
totally. Oh my God. And then also, can you imagine them trying to Disneyfy all this stuff? Like I just don't
Yes.
think it's a good idea. Not a good
Wow.
idea. Again, HR brain, right? I'm like, just let's just not. So, the first area there was going to be the Civil War fort. And this was a recreation of a 19th century fort with interactive exhibits, including the Ironclad Encounter. This is a thrilling boat simulator ride with a naval battle.
Okay, my dad would love that.
He would. My dad would have loved that too.
There
And my
you
brother
go.
would like that. They're all Navy people.
Oh, see, Disney tries to get after the guys. It's not that easy. This would have
I
worked.
know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this could have been one of those. And speaking of history, I just learned about my family's travels through Ellis Island, and they were going to have an Ellis
Huh?
Island Village here, which is a bustling immigrant era town square with food, shops, and cultural performances. Again, I
Wow.
don't
So you
know.
get to simulate going through and getting your name changed when people can't pronounce
Right.
it. Interesting. That's fun. You get a little souvenir.
Little Suve, little Suve.
Little soup.
And then they had what was called the Native American Preserve, which I believe now would probably be Indigenous Preserve or
Already
whatever.
bad
It's
before you even
I know. I'm
describe
like,
it.
I don't even know how to fix it. A tranquil area honoring Indigenous history and culture. And they had an attraction there called Spirit of the Nation, a nighttime storytelling show with projections and live performers.
Okay, first of all, Knott's Berry Farm has an attraction just like that. And
Really?
yeah, I think it's even called like Spirit of the something. And it's
How
really
funny.
cool. There's like a hologram involved. And I thought it was done respectfully.
Okay.
So the way this sounds, it could have been all right. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Agreed.
We still have the people, I'll just say people, in the Rivers of America on in Disneyland, right? Like on the side with a TP and a horse or something. It's still there. Okay, so all right. So in some
Hi. That was a
circumstances,
mute button I
it's
didn't
fine.
mean to press. Sorry.
That's
Yes, they do.
Appreciation, that's the one. Okay, that's good.
Right. Let's see. The next section was the Industrial Revolution Row. This was going to be a steampunk inspired area showcasing 19th century innovation, including a steam engine coaster, which is a fast paced journey abroad a coal fired train, and then the Innovators Workshop, a hands on space to tinker with old school machines. This is another thing I see at all of those recreation things. Like, you can
I
go
do
to
like
like the
this land.
blacksmith shop and like, you know what I mean?
I do like it. The Industrial Revolution Row. I think I like that. Steampunk, little roller coaster, and little tinkering. It kind of reminds me of Galaxy's Edge without the Star Wars.
Right. I could see that. Yeah.
Like kind of like it's like a living area of people.
So the reason that they canceled this was not only the financial failure of Euro Disney, but also local opposition.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that could have been people like you and me right now, where we're like,
The
maybe not.
NIMBYs.
NIMBYs. Shout out.
Shout out to the NIMBYs. Not in my backyard.
Not in my backyard. That's right. Next up is one that probably out of all of these, well, I guess Westcott was pretty popular too, but Beastly Kingdom is known about a lot by people. Now, this was a mythical themed land in Animal Kingdom featuring
Yeah.
dragons, unicorns, and dark ride attractions based on legends. Ugh,
Wow.
it still breaks my heart. This is a fun one too. If you guys ever want to do a deep dive and you don't know about Beastly Kingdom yet, do it. It's really cool. Um, it's literally still on the logo for Animal Kingdom. If you look today, there's a dragon on there. There's no dragons in Animal Kingdom.
Right? Yeah.
So they really were trying to make this happen, and it just couldn't happen with the budget relocations and whatnot. So, or reallocations. So,
Stop. I just got an idea right now. I just
huh.
haven't had an idea. What if to complete the circle and complete the logo
Uh-huh.
in the new Tropical America's Indiana Jones attraction, what if the thing he's searching for is a dinosaur, I mean, a dragon egg? A dragon egg,
They
and
could.
then you encounter the mama dragon at the end somehow. Ooh, like that's the mythical thing
Ooh.
he's looking for, and then voila, finally comes full circle.
That or they could just change the dragon to
Not a
what are they
banshee.
called? A banshee.
Yeah. They should just say it is and just gaslight
Yeah,
everyone
they're like
like, no,
it's
it's
fine. That's absolutely that. So, speaking of dragons, one of the attractions was going to be called Dragon's Lair,
so
a
cool.
dark ride through a medieval castle inhabited by a fire-breathing dragon. Are you serious? We missed that. So sad. Next up was Quest for the Unicorn. This is now going to be like kind of cutesy, family-friendly attraction. It's a maze leading to an animatronic unicorn encounter. What?
Ooh.
Animatronic unicorn. So cool. And then Fantasia Gardens. This is a serene area inspired by Disney's Fantasia with whimsical fountains and magical creatures. And in the gardens, they had how do you even pronounce this? The Chimera,
I say
Chimera,
I say chimera, and the only
Chimera.
reason I say that is because when I play Final Fantasy, that's one of the monsters. And
Oh,
but I don't know how to say
nice.
it. I just always my entire life just said chimera, so who knows?
Chimera. We'll go with Chimera. I like that. I like that as in Final Fantasy. Those Chimera Chase. It was a suspended coaster weaving through the forest, pursued by a mythical chimera. Now this
Ooh.
part was cool because it included Dreamfinder and Figment as part of the storyline.
Wait,
So we're not,
what?
yeah, yep. And I also
Wow.
found out by doing this research that Dreamfinder has a regular person name. Did you know this?
No.
His name is Blair.
What?
How anticlimactic is
Like
that?
Blair Underwood? Blair. No
Just
last
Blair,
name? I thought it'd be
like
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 Ron something.
Cher, just Blair, one
Blair.
name.
Interesting. Let's call him Dreamfinder.
Yeah, let's pretend that didn't happen. Just rewind this podcast 20 seconds and we can
That's
talk about that.
cool. I hope they think about expanding Figment beyond Epcot. That's kind of cool. Or
Yeah.
Dreamfinder or both. Yeah.
That'd be cool to have him like traveling the different parks somehow. Have
Yeah.
him become part of the SEA. Or I think a Dreamfinder might already be. I don't know.
Oh, I could see
He
that.
fits the
Yeah.
bill.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the last section in Beastly Kingdom was called Creatures Cove, and this was a walkthrough interactive exhibit featuring animatronic and augmented reality magical beasts.
Wow.
So sounded pretty cool. Didn't get it again because of Euro Disney. Um, also, like I think there was something in there about like Animal Kingdom was supposed to be very organic and real, so it kind of like clashed with that a little bit, and they bounced back and forth on that a lot. So who knows? But it officially got canceled because of the budget.
Wow. Euro Disney domino
Euro Disney.
affecting, canceling these projects left and right.
Right? All this stuff we lost because that freaking park. Are you kidding me? So, hater. The last one, and this was the one that I either never heard of or I've completely forgotten about. Like maybe because we've been talking about this for so long that I just don't even realize that this was actually a plan that was kind of already started. And it's Tomorrowland 2055. Do you know about this?
Is this the one that ended up just becoming the Jules Verne makeover with rocket rods? Was it around that same
So
time?
this was, yeah, yep. Rocket Rods was
Okay.
part of.
Okay. Yeah, I do remember this. I remember being so disappointed that all it was like a just paint and then a couple tweaks of the ride.
Yep. And like,
But
for instance, you remember the copper and bronze Space Mountain that we used to have?
yeah, they just brought
That
it
was
over
because of
from
this.
that.
And it,
And but what I don't know is what we were going to get.
okay.
Yeah, because back then it
Um,
wasn't as, I didn't have my YouTube videos to watch all that cool stuff.
right,
Yeah.
right. This to me, like, just like cracks me up because I'll get to it in a minute, but this was like going to be a futuristic overhaul of Disneyland's Tomorrowland, right? We keep talking about how much Tomorrowland needs help. Evidently, they've been talking about that since before DCA. So like it's been a long time. And they were going to choose to re theme it to the 100-year anniversary of Disneyland. So that's why it's 2055. Isn't that cute? I love that.
Oh.
So it's going to
And then
reopen.
what happens when you get to that year? They're
I know.
forced to
Then you have to
redo
do it
it. You
again.
gotta do it again.
I guess
That's
at the time
funny
it was
and
far enough out to where they probably should anyway, but
it's funny and sad that you said that Tomorrowland still hasn't been revamped to this day. Even in Disneyland Forward, we heard about new lands and expansions, still no Tomorrowland.
yep,
Oh.
yep. Poor Tomorrowland just gets like kind of left behind. Um, but with that said, the idea behind Tomorrowland 2055 was going to be this space where, ha, I said space, is this area or this land where aliens and humans can both coincide together.
Oh.
And there's going to be like a lot of alien creature encounters that you would have in this land.
Oh.
And it's supposed to be where aliens can visit Earth and humans can visit space at the same time. Like you can like see it all
Oh.
in this area. And um some of the things that were getting changed. So Circle Vision was still there at the time, and that was going to be changed to being the Circle Vision, including the Timekeeper. We ended up not getting that at all,
Oh.
but the Timekeeper actually made his way over into Interventions, at least for some time.
Yeah, why do I
So
recognize that name, that
yeah,
character?
it's
Timekeeper.
Robin Williams that plays him. They had him in Epcot also, or is it Epcot? Epcot or Magic Kingdom? I can't remember. Disney World. He
Oh,
did
that's
make it over
cool.
there, and he was in our Interventions as Tom Morrow.
Oh, yes. Okay,
So
now I do remember.
yeah,
When you said Robin Williams too, I was like, okay, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So we did get some version of that, but we did not get the full show like we thought we were gonna get. The Carousel Theater also was supposed to be like rethemed as this landed space alien craft, and it was gonna have an intergalactic review in the rotating theater. So you're gonna see this show
Wow. Almost
about
like
that,
a
right?
planetarium inside the park. That's cool.
Planetarium, but also like what alien life is like. It was gonna like have different
Oh, I
showcases
see
of
what
all
you
this stuff.
mean.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And then Mission to Mars, which we now know as Pizza Planet.
Oh
I'll
yeah.
just say
Okay.
that. Just a moment of silence.
In that corner.
Pizza Planet. Okay. Um, they were supposed to frickin' put extraterrestrial alien encounter there.
At
And when I read
Disneyland.
this, I was like, I do remember this because I forgot all about it, that we were actually gonna have it in California too. Ugh,
Wow.
so sad that didn't happen. That would have been so cool. Now it's just a freaking nasty pizza place. Sorry, I know it's offensive to some because some people like their pizza. I do not.
It's not good.
It's not good. It's
It's not good.
cafeteria pizza.
Not
Not
good.
good. Skip it. Um, so yes, that was supposed to become that. And then I can't remember exactly the timing on this, if they had already launched rocket rods or if it was the opposite where they still took this concept but just didn't do it up as much as they were planning. So what they were going to call it was the Cosmic Highway, and it was supposed to be a high-speed roller coaster with dazzling galaxy-themed projections. And we got rocket rods instead, which was like a watered down version of it, but they still did retheme areas and obviously the
I wonder,
attraction vehicles and stuff.
is that Cosmic Highway, was it going to replace Space Mountain or was Space Mountain
No,
staying?
Space Mountain comes up in a second here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that was supposed to replace People Mover.
Oh, wow.
And then the Stellar Explorers Pavilion. This is a hands-on interactive area showcasing future tech and robotics, including two things. One is Spaceport 77. Now this was going to be the new Space Mountain. So they're going to reimagine Space Mountain with the storyline about intergalactic tourism. Um,
Okay.
and hold on one second. I
So
have
that's
a
an actual
computer
like
thing.
working spaceport.
Right. Yep. So they're supposed to.
Okay, that's
Oh
pretty
man,
cool.
I knew it. I just lost my audio.
I can hear you.
I'm having all the technical difficulties today. It's okay. I can use Zoom audio, right? It'll be fine.
Yes.
Ay, ay, ay. Okay. So, that was the idea behind retheming their Space Mountain to that new look and feel of Tomorrowland 2055. And I just thought it was funny, this like Tony Baxter thing about Discovery Bay was like an even older concept that Tony Baxter wanted to bring to Disneyland that got canned.
Yeah.
And then he also brought Discovery Land to Paris. And
Paris.
now he's trying to get this Jules Verne steampunk back. He was trying to make it happen like Fetch, like so hard.
A lot
He
of
wanted
recycling. Reuse,
he
reduce,
wanted his
recycle.
discovery to happen so bad. But it was very cute. I love the passion behind it. That's great. And then also in this area of this Stellar Explorers Pavilion, including Spaceport 77, aka Space Mountain, was the Galactic Cantina, and it's supposed to be a sci-fi themed restaurant with animatronic alien entertainers. Can we
Oh.
say Sunny Eclipse, please?
Oh, I was thinking, can they put that in Galaxy's Edge, please?
That would be very cool. All those promises.
Promises, promises.
And then the last thing about this whole Tomorrowland 2055 project was that they're going to have a new nighttime show. And this was like another like Main Street hub firework castle show. But this was supposed to be like they're gonna have announcements, and I current times right now makes me crack up about all this stuff going on with the drones right now and stuff. They were going to announce across the park like, attention, there has been unidentified objects flying through Disneyland or whatever. And then a little bit later they're gonna have this nighttime show, and they're gonna
Wow.
have this giant UFO land somehow by the castle, like to the side of the castle.
How fun.
Yep. And then they're gonna have that turn into, oh wait, actually it was supposed to be a parade with fireworks. So it was a kind of a combo thing, I
Oh,
guess. I don't
that's
really, they've
cool.
never done that actually, now I'm thinking about it. But they're gonna have like floats that were all like trippy and like alien like type dancers and stuff on the floats. So
That would be cool to have a sunny eclipse float there too. I mean,
ooh,
his
heck
presence
yeah.
there too. Yeah.
And that was gonna be called the Light Keepers Parade if you wanted to look more into that. So
Oh,
super
so there's a
interesting.
light keeper and a timekeeper. I wonder.
Yeah, all
Okay.
the keepers. Yep.
Huh.
So yeah, so that is five, or that was five major things that were canceled all because of Euro Disney. Isn't it a
Wow.
shame?
And
I
not to
mean,
mention like okay, HR brain again, like but like the layoffs and all that that could go
oh, so
along.
many other things. Yeah. Yeah. And cutbacks.
Wow.
There's still other cutbacks, but I just didn't even have time to go through everything. But like those are like big cuts that happened. And I've been to Disneyland Paris. It is absolutely freaking beautiful. Like the story that goes through the park, the continuity of it, like is it's gorgeous. And like I think they like nailed it for that aspect of the park. The studios park, that's whatever it's going to be rethemed to, didn't nail it there because they had, again, major cutbacks there. But they really did like really go hard on the theming and the storyline and
The
the
beauty,
beauty,
right?
just general beauty of the
Yeah.
park in Disneyland Paris. Yeah.
I
So,
always hear that. And they get snow and it looks like a
oh, I
whole
know. It's
other
so,
magical place.
ugh, the
Wow.
castle is just gorgeous. So, what, with all that said, it sucks that we lost all of this stuff. And especially because, hold on, is all of this here? Yeah, this is all, a lot of it was California specific, definitely all in America. Um, and yeah,
Yeah.
we lost it all because of Disneyland or Euro Disney.
And then the like watered down version of DCA because of the
Mm-hmm.
aftermath of all the budget issues. Wow, what
Yep.
a time.
Yep.
I was going to ask you about something and I can't remember. But if it comes back, I know it was something good that our listeners want to hear. So if I remember it.
Well, you better hurry because we are at the wrap of this episode.
Oh
And
shoot.
today we talked we talked about our final Patreon takeover topic. Just quote, thanks for sending this one in. It was so much fun. I literally spent way too much time watching videos and learning all this stuff. It was a heck of fun though. Um, but we talked about the demise of Euro Disney, and with that said, the some of the major projects that got canceled because of it.
Demise. Well,
Demise.
thanks for listening. We hope you all enjoyed episode 223 of the Disney Holic Show.
Follow us on social media at the Disneyholics.
And if you want to get in touch, send us a DM on Instagram or contact us at thedisneyholics.com. Okay,
Goodbye.
bye.